Magic Foundations releases officially on the 15th of November, but pre-releases start tomorrow as of the time I'm making this video. And as usual, I thought it'd be good to take a look at what the pre-release prices are looking like so far and see how this set looks like it's going to shake out. So let's jump into the video. Thanks so much everyone for being here. If you guys do enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. I do appreciate everybody that does take the time to watch these videos. The majority of people who do watch consistently are not subscribed, so if even a small percentage of you subscribed, it would be a huge help to the channel. Now, Foundations is coming out soon, and you'll be able to actually, some places you might be able to have bought it today or tomorrow, if your locals, is a premium store, but this set is extremely hyped, and I think initially, myself included, people had kind of looked at this like it was going to be a bit of a letdown, simply because it was a core set. Historically speaking, a lot of core sets have had, a couple powerful cards, but a lot of like generic-ish reprints, things to kind of, be included as a baseline in the standard format, but nothing crazy. Well, Foundations kind of flipped that on its head. Not only does it have a ton of new, really cool, strong cards, it also has a ton of really cool alternate art treatments and variants and reprints and stuff. So this set as a whole has a ton going for it, I think, and there is definitely going to be a lot of intrigue on the market end. But we're, as always, going to look at the pre-orders, and I want to note, again, I say this every video, but I'm going to say it again, pre-orders are just that. They are pre-orders. The value for the majority of pre-sale items does end up dropping when the set officially comes out. There are rare circumstances where it goes up instead, but it just like any type of, market with swings, stock market, whatever, there is always that risk of things going up or down. So I just, want to establish that clearly before we get any further into the video. Obviously, anything I mention here, is not intended to serve as financial advice, but rather just to give some reactionary thoughts to what we're seeing. But yeah, so let's actually kind of jump into that now. And one of the things I really wanted to highlight here is how well the collector boosters are doing so far in terms of sales. I believe the average price, usual price we see a collector booster box for a non-premium set go for should be somewhere around $225 early on, and these are selling at around $290. I don't know if that's going to stick or if it's more so because of some of the chase cards in here, but as you see the chart itself going from, 218 up to 282 with a lot of sold listings. I think the biggest thing that's happening here with Foundations so far is that there are a lot of really cool premium variants of things you can get in the set. I know one of the biggest ones is Doubling Season, which we have talked about a ton, and I'm now realizing that you guys might not be able to see this as well as I'd hoped, so let me restructure this screen just a little so we can have a better sense of what we're looking at here. So Doubling Season from Foundations is just, this is wildly popular. Of course, it's adorable. It's a really good card. It's, I don't know what its play application is going to look like in standard, but it's definitely going to see play, in the formats that it already sees play in. This version, which is the Japanese showcase, is around $115. And then the fractured foil version of the same card, if I can find it, of course, do this live. Doubling Season's fractured foil variant is, yeah, it's absolutely insane right now. Low listing at $1,500, but there's nothing else. That's just a placeholder. I would not think this is going to be that high, but could it feasibly be $300, $400? Probably. I think that's a reasonable expectation. I mean, obviously, I hope it's more affordable if they want the premium version, but I will have to wait and see how many of them actually pop up and what that looks like. But that is just, one example of some of the bigger cards in here that are really popular. We've got cards like Twin Flame Tyrant, which is not only really strong, but is just absolutely sick art. And, is selling, again, pretty high, $90. This is a new card, so of course there's other variants of it that you can get. And, if you want to just have the card yourself, certainly there are ways to do that. But just, this is kind of giving you an example of some of the best stuff in here. If I sort high to low, just to paint a picture, with a lot of what's on the screen here, you see all of this kind of, the big value really is coming from the fractured foils, of course. Cards like Bloodthirsty Conqueror in its fractured foil version, pretty high too. And of course, Duskmourn is all we have to go off of in terms of where the values of the fractured foils have settled so far, but those were also a little bit less generic. Some of these cards are just wicked strong. Like Bloodthirsty Conqueror it's not specific to one deck necessarily. It's Flying Death Touch, and it has the when your opponent loses life, you gain life. So there's infinite loops with 1,000 cards that make this card do things. it's just a really strong card. So it's just one example of like, okay, well, where are we looking at these? You know, the last sale, you know, there's been somewhere around 200. There was one at 215, and there's just not much on the market yet to replenish the stock. So watching over the weekend as, you know, more people get their product in hand and start to list is going to be really important. But the real dips probably won't come until mid to next week. But looking also at some of the mana foils, that's a new foil styling here in this product, and I think it looks kind of cool. It reminds me of, it's hard to explain, but it reminds me of some, like, I guess Pokemon foil styling from back in the day. Kind of hard to even see really on this picture, but they have all the mana symbols. I did show it off in another video too. You know, this, again, $100 for this. You know, people are going to like what they like. It really depends on the actual preferences, but the set definitely offers a lot for people in that regard. Sire of Seven Deaths, the Eldrazi, is a huge seller right now. And honestly, I think the Manifoil version is his premium version. There's not a higher one, but I think just for the regular versions of him, there you're looking at, you know, 32, and then you're looking at what are we looking at? 21 for the regular one here. This card is just cracked. It does a lot. It's an Eldrazi, so it's got that going for it too. It's a really strong card that is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. And so there are a lot of mythics here that we're looking at from a chase perspective. But I think it's easy to look at some of the fracture foils right now and be like, oh, look how high these are. I don't know that that's going to paint an accurate representation of what we're looking at in terms of value. So if we look at like some of the more low to the ground, if you will, chase cards, like let's say Muldrotha, Muldrotha's showcase version, this is a, you know, nice card. The artwork looks cool. It's a very popular card that doesn't have a lot of premium versions. This is just a really nice card at around $50. So I can look at this and say, all right, well, it's probably going to end up settling somewhere around 25, 30, you know, when all is said and done, maybe a little less. But obviously we have to, you know, like I said, there are a lot of moving parts to this, and most of that comes from the fact that this is a massive set, that it has not been widely ripped open yet, and there are multiple different premium versions of cards you can get, which I think is going to be good for people ripping product and be good for people who want choice and whatnot, but it's also, you know, going to be very polarizing in terms of how it impacts the value of certain things. Doubling Season itself, around $23 for the foil right now. You know, I'm hoping this hits 20. That's a great price for this card. It's extremely good. If you've been waiting to get one, grabbing one at $20 is certainly not going to be that bad. Just nice to see it finally getting another reprint, despite some of my commenters disagreeing with that, because apparently everybody wants everything to stay expensive forever. But, you know, a card being $50, that's like a staple in Commander, probably good for that card to be less, you know, expensive. Day of Judgment is another one I wanted to mention quickly. Obviously a lesser Wrath of God. However, this is objectively, I think, the best board wipe for Standard now. And it's got obviously some fucking awesome artwork there. This card is more than likely going to end up being, you know, a decent value. It's right now, the showcase is like 21. If you know, this card doesn't see a ton of play in other formats because you have Wrath of God, you have other things that are, you know, stronger, Farewell even, but this is a lower cost, and this just wipes the board for 4 mana. So don't get me wrong, this is 100% going to see Standard play, but I think it will sort of fall into a bit more reasonable. I think the Fracture foil is going to perform extremely well for itself over time. Just because it looks incredible, really, and it's around $200. So will people that are actually playing this in Standard want 4 or however many copies you're going to play? Certainly it's possible. But if you look at cards like the Japanese alternate art Day of Judgment from Strixhaven, which was not, the card was not standard legal at the time, but, you know, it's held on around $5, $6 for, you know, a premium version. It does have the language thing going, so if people prefer all their cards to be English, then certainly I could see where maybe it wouldn't be as high of a seller in that regard. But I think it's safe to assume that the showcase version of this will end up being probably maybe $10 when all is said and done, and then the Fracture foil I think is going to be what commands good value. But there is, again, the possibility that people buy out, you know, want 4 copies of this for their decks or side decks and whatnot, and that could do a good bit for the value. So if you're wondering why that card's expensive right now, especially on pre-sales, it's just because it's going to be a genuinely good card in Standard to, you know, have the option to wipe the board. And yeah, Bloodthirsty Conqueror also going pretty high, but nothing unreasonable. I think in terms of like right now at 25, we can safely assume that he's probably going to fall another $8 to $10, if not a little more, once the set actually releases, until we see how things perform. You know, looking at the middle end of the set, there's no land cycle to chase here, so there's, you know, it's kind of unfortunate. I think some cards that are really strong, like for example, Blasphemous Edict. That's going to be one to really watch and pay attention to. I think this card's extremely strong in Commander, and it'll be viable in other formats too, but just, you know, this is going to be one to keep an eye on, because it's at about $12 right now, but I think this... If this card makes the impact I expect it to, I definitely think you'll see people starting to go after it. So it will probably drop maybe about $5-6, I would think, and then it will go back up. Feels like a sleeper card for me, for sure, because it's just that good. And you know, you have a lot of extended arts and stuff here. The thing about those is, of course, they're competing also with mana foils and other variants. So there's a lot of, I guess, hands in the cookie jar. Is that a good expression? I don't even know. That are all kind of going to be going in different directions. So it will be a bit before we see how things really shake up, and also what's going to make the most impact in Standard. Because while Commander is definitely a more popular format, there is a huge effort to revitalize Standard going on here. And I think from that perspective, you know, people are going to be going in on this hard, because this set's going to be around for quite a while. But that, you know, side effect to that is this set's going to be around for a while. So, you know, it's not there. It's going to continue to be reprinted over the next years. It's not like it's going to be super scarce. But again, the amount of things in the set and the amount of chase cards, if you will, it's going to be hard to get the specific one you want, which I think is, of course, where we're going to see some interesting things from Foundation. So just wanted to do a quick early look at this. Let me know what you guys think. Is there cards you're targeting? Are you hoping things drop? Historically speaking, I don't think we've had a core set as large as this with as many variants and foil stylings and stuff. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and good luck at your pre-releases. Hopefully everybody's able to get what they're looking for. Peace.